Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a chat topic that has been sort of preying on my mind for some time, and I wanted to throw it out there and share it with you all and see what you think about it too. And that's this. It isn't the music that makes us really listen intently to the music. Sounds a little paradoxical, doesn't it? But I think it isn't. I really think it isn't. You know, one of the things that fascinated me when I was growing up and starting to get into classical music is, we're all playing, at least initially, a limited number of recordings of the same repertoire. Dozens of Beethoven symphonies or Mozart operas or Bach Goldberg variations, just lots and lots and lots of the same stuff. And some performances will strike us and some performances won't. But in order for anything to really sink in, to really make an impression, we have to be inclined to listen with open ears. And the things that make us listen with open ears is not the fact that you decide, well, maybe some of you do, but let's put it this way, but it's often not the fact that you're just listening to a new recording of something that you know or have heard before. It's something that makes you listen. And that something is usually only tangentially related to the music. In other words, it might be the identity of the performer. I mean, I know so many people, and I'm sure you do too, who have been told that such and such is so-and-so is the ultimate performer of X repertoire. And so you listen to the recordings of that repertoire with extra seriousness and intensity and attention. And then the music hits you, as it is wont to do, and you say to yourself, it must be because of performer X. When in reality, my question is it really because of performer X, or is it because you just decided that this was really worth your attention? And so you gave it the attention it deserved all along. And if you'd given a different performance the same attention, would it have struck you just as powerfully? I don't have an answer. I think it's going to be different for everybody. But, think about it. When I was growing up, for example, if Arthur Rubinstein played it, it had to be great. And so when Rubinstein did a recording of something, you really paid attention because you were waiting for insights. I don't know if those insights came from the performer or they just came from the fact that you noticed things. And more than just noticing them, you said, oh, it must be really important because performer X is doing it. It was true of it's what happens all the time, I believe, with Furtwängler people, with the cults, the performer cults. They think their guy or girl must be unbelievably amazing at everything they do, and they can do no wrong. So no matter what they do, you pay attention to it, and you assign to it an epic significance, which it may or may not have, in some sort of objective way, but it does for you in the course of the act of listening. And so the performers can be an aspect of that. It can also be a function of the composer. The Bach people, well, everything Bach wrote is just, it's an absolute direct transmittal from the mind of God through Bach, and therefore whatever he wrote has to be spiritual. Bruckner too. Spirituality, it's amazing. And you focus like a laser on every detail that you hear, and you say, well, that must be terribly important. It's terribly significant because Bach wrote it, or because he did this, or because he ornamented that, or because he assigned it to this instrument. And then if you actually had to stop and say, well, why do I say it's that? What is it about that makes it transcendental or important or unique or any of those qualities? What is it? You'd be kind of hard-pressed to answer, at least as distinguishes the version you're hearing from some other version, or the composer you're listening to some other composer you're listening to who did much the same stuff. Anyway, I'm throwing these things out there because it really fascinates me. So much of what we understand about music, how we interpret it, how it moves us, is not, I think, so much a result of what the music itself is doing as it is our expectations of what it's supposed to do and our willingness to let it do what we think it's supposed to do. We have to be in the right frame of mind. That right frame of mind means a certain receptivity. But there's a difference between receptivity, just openness and letting things happen, and fulfilling our own expectation that something is going to happen because, so and so is playing the music, or so and so wrote the music, or so. I don't know. I'm not saying this because I think this is a bad quality. I don't think it's bad at all. I mean, whatever allows us to get pleasure and whatever moves us from the experience of listening to music is legitimate. It's absolutely legitimate to every listener. However you get there, it doesn't really matter. But my point, I think, in the larger sense, is that the act of listening to music, of understanding music, is encompasses far more than just the music. It's an experience that has a context, and that we bring certain expectations with it when we decide to do it, and we want those expectations to be gratified. So what we do is we set ourselves up for success, which is absolutely fine. Again, it's absolutely fine. But there can come a time, it seems to me, when our expectations that such and such is going to always be the best, that means nothing else can be. And I see that quite often in the comments section. I really do. I see comments where, well, this performance is definitive and nothing else moves me. Nothing will ever move me as much as performance X, performance Y. Well, that's fine. If that's how you feel, that's okay. But I would want to say, make sure when you say that it isn't because you have shut your mind off from the experience of other performances of the same work or other interpretive approaches. Because if you do that, then you're missing out. You're missing out on the potential, what the music can be, what its larger significance and meaning is, and its larger potentiality in terms of your listening experience. So you want to keep an open mind about it. And again, that's a generic point. I know it is. So I don't want to belabor this too much. But I hope that this is clear, that you understand where I'm coming from. That so much of music, because it's kind of a nebulous, intangible, non-corporeal, artistic medium, is a function of our own expectations and what we expect to get out of it. And there are a million reasons why we expect things. It could be because we spend money. Someone said, if you buy Wagner's Ring, then God damn it, you're going to get 14 hours of enjoyment or die trying, because you spent money, because you invested time. There's all kinds of, these things don't happen so much with paintings, for example. You look at a painting, it's like, okay, I like it, I don't like it. You move on to the next one. You haven't had to spend, an hour devoted to staring at it and then justify the amount of time that you spent with it. But with music, it's different. It's very, very different. And for that reason, I think the risks and rewards, the equation, what's the word? The analysis of advantages and disadvantages, what you hope to gain out of it, is different. It's different from any other kind of art, really. And so I'm interested in that. As a critic, when I listen to things, I try very hard not to let non-musical elements get in the way, not to let my biases about who the performers are, who the artist is, or who the composer is, or any of those things, how much I've invested in it, whether I've taken time when I really wanted to do something else, all of those things, they're going to influence how you listen. But ideally, you want to listen to all of it in more or less the same way, with the same receptivity. Now, it may not strike you, but you should be in a position where if it's going to, it can. And so I just want you to think about that. Think about the things that make you more willing to listen to certain things than other things, and what those criteria are, and how you set yourself up for success or enjoyment or not enjoyment or whatever when you actually, start listening to things. And let me know how you think about it. What mood are you in, and how much do you determine in advance whether or not you're going to have a good experience or not? I'm curious. I really am. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.